Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final 2018 KaiNexus Training Team Office Hours webinar, episode 13, aka the Banner Rippey Show. That's quite a mouthful. My name is Ryan Rippey. I'm the Customer Enablement Manager here at KaiNexus, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Solutions Engineer, Matt Banna. Banna, are you crying?
No, I just have something in both my eyes.
Dude, relax. We will pick up the webinar series next year. Stop crying. You're embarrassing me.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Come on, man. Go grab a tissue or something. We got to get through this webinar. All right. For those of you new to our webinar series, welcome aboard. The way this works is we plan to nerd out here for the next half hour or so on a KaiNexus topic that we will share with everyone here in just a bit. The purpose of these webinars is for us to review the hottest topics and latest and greatest features suggested by you, our customers. So before we actually dive into KaiNexus, let's just knock out some housekeeping items. So first and foremost, the webinar is being recorded, so we will go ahead and send out the slides and the recording to everyone after the webinar. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those into the chat box. We will do our best to answer those in real time, as well as at the very end of the webinar if there is some time left over. So Banna, one last final drum roll before we reveal the topic for today's webinar. And so today's webinar topic is 2.3.1 release. So earlier this month, we unveiled our latest 2.3.1 release. So for today's webinar, we're going to be taking a look at some of those top features that were in that release. Let's see specifically what we have on the agenda. No more drum rolls. Not till 2019. You're done.
All right. How to get it in. We don't have any more left.
So we're going to start off by going over some board enhancements. We've now included a board filter, so we'll take a look at how that works in KaiNexus. Then we're going to get into some customization options that we've introduced in this release, which is going to include customizing some of the team names, further customization on tooltips, as well as some placeholder text. So we'll go over exactly what that's going to look like in KaiNexus. From there, we're going to take a look at a couple of new milestone enhancements. So for anyone who's not familiar with our milestone add-on module, we'll take a look at some of the features that have been added with that. Then we're going to get into some planning enhancements. So one of those statuses in KaiNexus is, of course, being able to plan items. And so we've added some further customization that you can do with that. Then we got chart enhancements. Ben, I feel like we're doing chart enhancements every release. We just make charts
because we are
so much more powerful, so much more you can do in there. So we got a couple of really great features we're excited to introduce with charts as part of this release. And then, Banna, let's wrap up with some report enhancements. We got a couple of new reports that came out with this 2.3.1 release. So we'll head over to the reporting section and introduce those reports to everyone.
Cool.
Sound good to you, man?
Let's go.
All right. Let's go ahead and hop out of our deck here. We're in KaiNexus. So Banna, why don't we talk a little bit about the board filter feature that has come out here in 2.3.1.
Now, this board filter gives you the ability to overlay a filter to an entire board. This makes it easier to precisely filter all of your boards. Now, if you have cards on the board filtered down to show items within your location, you can go ahead and a step further and add an additional filter on your board to see items specific to a user within your location. Now, at the top of our board here, you'll find our filter icon. This can be enabled in the edit board menu, so we can add this and then add a filter, and that will apply to the entire board.
Okay, so let's take a look at how we actually get this configured on our board, Banna.
So if we hit our ellipses button right here and hit edit, you'll see this new show board filter button.
Perfect. And so what we can do here is, you'll notice the little filter icon next to that is we can set up a default filter. So maybe there's a default filter you want to include on your board, or as you just showed before, if you just want to select the board filter, what that's going to do is show that little filter icon for you. And so the example that we're using here is we've logged in, we're taking a look at a huddle board. And so each of the 4 cards here, if we go ahead and just kind of hover over our title, we can see the filters on these cards. So right now we're looking at improvements in the system at the various stages in KaiNexus, right? The different statuses that we have. So on the left card here, we have any new improvements. Next to that is anything to do, so anything in that plan status, anything that we're currently working on, so if it's in an active or an overdue status. And then the final card here is showing us all of those completed ideas. So that's the filter that we have on these 4 cards. We've also added the location filter onto this board. So you'll notice over on the left-hand side, we have our location filter here where you can start to drill down into your network to see all of the items specific to a location. And so now with this board filter, we can take it a step further. And let's say, for example, okay, I'm looking at everything that's going on in my location. Now I want to see all of those items that, you know, Jim Bob Schmo is working on. And so Jim Bob,
I don't think he's a user.
You don't think he's a user in the system? All right, well, let's see what we're working with here. So if we come in here and click the filter option, we can pick an additional criteria. And so let's say, for example, we want to use that user criteria. Here's where we can say that I'm looking for a specific user. So maybe Bo Jackson here in the system. And then once I go ahead and save and apply, it's now going to add that additional filter on top of these filters here, where we'll be able to see all of those improvements within a specific location that Bo Jackson is a team member on, right? So just adding further ways to filter down your boards and just really making boards super powerful in the system, Banna. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. I want to talk some more about the customization options that we introduced in this feature, Banna. So where are we going on this one? Our IV Start Kit? Oh, nice. There you go. It's already on our board for us. Gotta love that. Thank you, sir. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is we can now customize the item location tooltips. So for all of our system administrators on the call today, please raise your hands, wave them in the air like you just don't care. We actually can't see you doing it. Banna's doing it over here, just if you want to visualize that. Are you a system admin? I don't know that you should have that permission.
I have all the permissions.
So let's take a look at exactly what this means. So if you're familiar with the different workflows in KaiNexus, here we're looking at an A3. And so this A3 has both an originating and a responsible location, right? And so sometimes these different locations get confusing in the system, right? You're going to have your originating location, responsible location on improvements. You have your project location on projects. And so if you want to add some further context and add a tooltip on those items, if we come over to our originating location here and hit the little pencil icon, we see that there's a little info icon next to that originating location, which if I hover over, Paradise City, nice. Thanks, man. What'd you put for the responsible location here?
Grass is green, the girls are pretty.
Where the grass is green. Thank you, Banna. So as you can see, we can come in here and customize that tooltip now on those different location fields, just so that your users can understand exactly what that location means and how to use it in the system. And so again, this is going to be a system admin permission. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of this A3. And so if we come into the admin section, we'll go to the tooltip customization here under system. And so if we scroll all the way down here in our list, we're going to see that those different locations, such as our project location, chart location, task location, as well as what we just took a look at with our originating and responsible location, we can come in here and now customize what that tooltip is going to display. Thanks for including that, Ben. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, let's hop back into that IV Start, Ben. We got a few more improvements we want to take a look at here. So another thing we're going to take a look at now is you can also request to customize the team role names on your projects and improvements. And so, let's say, for example, your organization refers to the facilitators on a project as champions, for example. That's no problem anymore in KaiNexus. So this is something that you're going to have to reach out to your CE representative for assistance with getting this configured. Here, Banna, we're taking a look at a project, and so we're going to take a look over here at the team section over on the right, And you can see that what we've done here is for our facilitators, you have now named them captains. For our leaders, you have gone with sensei. And for our followers, you put intern. Do you miss your intern days, Vanna? Is that why you did that?
No.
Okay. So as you can see here, you can go in and now work with your CE team to manage how you're going to name those team roles. And to take it a step further, of course, remember that, again, our system admins, for the tooltips, you can always come in and customize any of the text that shows up in this tooltip here for those team roles as well. So again, this is all with the idea of, just helping guide your users in the best behavior in the system, right? If they're not sure, what a captain is in KaiNexus, customize that tooltip so that when they hover over this, they know exactly who should be added in as that specific team role, right? And then lastly, the thing we're going to take a look at, Vanna, is you can request to change the placeholder text that's going to appear on fields within a template. So what this is going to mean here, so for example, Vanna just opened up our A3 here, and we'll see under the root cause analysis that we've gone in and customized this placeholder text, and this can be used to provide further context and help users with their problem-solving tools, right? So here, for example, with the root cause analysis, there's an info icon that we can put some information in here, and in addition to that, with this placeholder text, you can help guide the proper behavior in terms of how we should fill out, for example, this root cause analysis on our A3. So one of the things we're seeing with a lot of customers is, KaiNexus is providing the technology that's helping with your people and your process. Sometimes when people aren't familiar with, I've never worked in an A3, and so if there's some sort of training that needs to be done and they're starting to fill out A3s in KaiNexus, take advantage of this new feature, because this is going to help eliminate some of those questions that are going to come up of, how do I fill out this particular item in KaiNexus? All right, Vanna, I'm done talking. Why don't you tell us a little bit?
Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I think I'm good. Talk us through a little bit about some of the things that Milestones now offer for us.
All right, I feel like you're rambling a little bit.
I'm not Clint, our sales guy.
For those of you not familiar with our Milestones add-on, Milestones allow you to create a completely configurable workflow. Now, one of our new improvements to Milestones is that you can add them in custom layout and be able to title it whatever you want. So if you don't want to use the term Milestones, we can actually just use approvals here.
Perfect.
Instead.
And so again, with Milestones, Vanna mentioned, this is being able to give you a configurable workflow. So think about if you have toll gates as you're working through, maybe there's some sort of approval and sign-off process. Those are where you can really take advantage of the Milestones and give them their own section within your template so that people are able to visualize those a little bit better.
Now, our next Milestones improvement was an optional milestone. So we can include or disinclude a specific milestone based on our role permissions. So we have our initial approval and our final leadership approval, but I can go in and add this optional milestone because of the role that I have in KaiNexus and make sure that this actually does get routed through finance. Perfect,
Vanna. So yeah, so as Vanna mentioned there, with the adding of optional milestones, if you have certain sign-offs or certain areas that might not necessarily need to sign off, you can go ahead and include those optional milestones, and we can configure it so that maybe someone has to have a specific role in KaiNexus to be able to do that, or if you kind of want to just open it up, you can allow any members of your team to go in there and add that milestone. And so, for example, Vanna, if we were at the point where we were at final leadership approval and you went in and added that optional milestone for financial approval, it's going to take us back and make sure that we've gone in and actually approved that newly added optional milestone. Exactly. So again, new features here with that milestone add-on module. If this is something that your organization would see value in, again, reach out to your CE team. We'd be happy to take you through how milestones work, allow you to do a pilot in the system, and that way you'd also be able to take a look at these new features here. All right, Vanna. So we're gonna talk planning enhancements now. If you could get me set up in here. So for those of you familiar with the plan status in KaiNexus, planning an item is going to give you options to, as you can see here, decide later, choose a specific date, or make dependent on. And so in our 2.3.1 release, we've added further enhancements to the dependencies option. So I'm going to go ahead and select dependent on here.
Oh, look at all those options.
A lot of options here. Don't worry, Ben and I are going to take you through each of these. Prior to this release, you could only make items dependent on the completion of other items. So what we've done now is added the ability to make items dependent on the start of other items as well. And then to take it a step further, you can also choose the number of days before or after this planned item should be activated. So Banna, let's take a look at all of our possible options here. Let's talk this through. Let's say, for example, that I am planning this item and I'm going to have it be dependent on the start of another item. So maybe it's dependent on the start of storage organization, right? Okay, so that's step one. Now the next step here is let's add in a number of days. So let's use 5 as our example for these. And so let's use before. And so let's make sure we're reading this correctly, Banna. So what this is saying is the item that we're currently planning is dependent on the start of storage org. And so it's going to actually start this item 5 days before the start date of that storage organization.
That's correct.
And so what that's going to mean, let's kind of put this into context. Let's say, for example, you want to set tasks to activate before a project starts to ensure that all of the work leading up to that project is completed successfully on time. This would be a great way to take advantage of this start of and then using
maybe we need to set a prep meeting before that project starts.
Exactly. So this is more of kind of using that preparation workflow in the system, right? Now, sticking with our start of here, we can also choose after. And so again, if we kind of read this here, the item that we're currently planning is dependent on the start of the storage organization. And so this item is now going to start 5 days after the storage organization starts, right? So that's the start of, that's that new option here. Now completion of we've had, but we only had the completion of items we're being able to start after. And so let's go through the same kind of motion here, Ben. I'm going to select completion of now, and we'll come back to before. And so now what this is saying is the item that we're planning is dependent on the completion of storage org. And so what this is going to do is it's going to start this item 5 days before the due date of storage organization, right?
Yep.
And then the last option that you could do here would be after. And so what that would do is say,
just like before, just like we used to
exactly
have.
this was the functionality of dependencies before, right? So that's saying this item is dependent on the completion of storage organization, and it's going to actually start 5 days after the completion of storage org.
Yep.
So a lot of different ways that you can set up. This is also available in standard work, and I think that's a big piece to this feature. As Banna mentioned, if you're going in and you're creating projects and you have a standard preparation that you have to do, some tasks that need to be put in play, we can set all of this up as well on standard work. And so just makes that dependencies feature that much more powerful in KaiNexus. And everything, of course, will also be displayed if you're using your Gantt view. So if you might see arrows all over the place, but just keep in mind that that's how you're using the dependencies here. So that's everything that I have for those planning enhancements. Banna, what do we got next here on our agenda?
We have our favorite chart enhancements
we're on
coming
charts.
up. We are on charts.
Oh man. So do me a favor, Banna. Show us a couple of Cartesian charts.
What'd you call me?
I said your cardigan looks lovely today. It's about time you took a page out of my fashion book.
I'm wearing a t-shirt. I don't know where you got that.
They don't know that. So the first feature that Banna is going to pull up and we're going to talk about is the shared data series. And so what this feature is going to allow us to do is we can now auto-populate charts with data from other KaiNexus charts, which allows us to easily compare metrics from different locations and ultimately roll it up to the executive level. So I see you've been tracking my jokes, sir.
Oh, I have. You took a hit in the middle, but you stepped your game up lately.
I'm pretty sure that I'm the funny guy who gets these jokes in here. So Banna, what we're looking at here is you've gone ahead and set up two line charts in KaiNexus. And so we have a line chart here for my jokes. Why don't you go ahead and click on yours? We have a line chart here for your jokes. Oh, your jokes have been going down, man. I don't know what's up with that. So one thing we want to point out before we move forward is both of these line charts are using the dates
Yes.
for our rows. So rather than these be categories, you can see at the bottom of these charts that we're using specific dates here in the system. So let's say, for example, Banna, we have our jokes, and let's say that Greg wants to be able to visualize our jokes on a separate chart that's going to include both of our series.
Can we do that?
Oh, we can do that now. Yes,
now.
sir.
Yes, we can.
So let's get a chart created in here, and we'll go. Let's do the bar line. We can add a threshold to it later. Total Banna and Rippy jokes. Come on, do you not know the name of our webinar?
Let's go ahead and create that chart.
All right, so now we have our chart in the system. And so what we're going to do is let's add some data to our chart. And so we're going to create a series. And then here in the series, let's start first with, we'll do your jokes. So let's do Banna's jokes. You got to learn how to spell your name though, buddy.
I should.
All right, so now what we're going to do here, why don't you go ahead and give your line like a blue so it doesn't match mine later.
All right. Blue's good color.
So we're going to have a blue line for Banna's jokes, and now you'll see at the very bottom of our series window here is the option to add a shared series. And so here Banna is going to go pull from his Banna's jokes chart. He's going to grab his specific series of jokes per webinar and go ahead and save this. And so we're not going to see any of the data quite yet until we go ahead and save our chart, but let's go ahead and now get my jokes in here as well. So we'll create another series. You better know how to spell my name. Yeah, I saw you struggling for a second. So we'll keep my line as black. That's fine. What are you going to do? Change it purple? All right, I'm down for purple. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll go ahead and grab Rippy's jokes chart now, and we'll grab the specific series that is being tracked on my chart. And so let's go ahead and save this. And so what this is going to do now is you'll see it's going to grab those two series that we selected from the charts that Banna and I took a look at earlier.
No way,
right?
how cool is that?
This is very cool. So now if we're Greg and we're managing to see how many jokes you and I are adding to our webinars, we don't have to take a look at both of those charts. We can just take a look at this chart and see how things are fluctuating here. And so let's take it a step further, Banna. Let's actually go back in and edit the chart. So one thing I want to point out here is, of course, we can now see all of the data that's being pulled from the chart. You'll notice Banna is actually trying to click in and edit that data. Remember that this is pulling from the series on those other charts. So as you update the data on those other charts, it's going to be reflected here on the shared series chart that we're working on. So what I want to do, Banna, is let's take this a step further. Let's now say that you and I are tracking our jokes. Greg now has a chart that he can go to and see how our jokes are comparing. Maybe Greg has a specific threshold that he has set on how many jokes we should be doing. So let's add a threshold to this as well. I know you were working on threshold charts before, so I think you know what you're doing here.
Yeah, maybe joke goal would be better.
Cool. Let's make the color target color target red, color target green. Let's have our line colors green. And then add a baseline. We'll do red for our baseline. Red for our line color. All right. So now what we've done is we've added a threshold onto this line. And so Banna, let's fill out our, we'll say baseline will be 0. So we're not allowed to have no jokes. And then for our primary, let's say like 7.
7's a good number.
7 sounds like that was my number back in the day when I used to play a little basketball. All right, so now we have our threshold in place. And we're going to go ahead and attach those two series that we've added here to that threshold. And then once we've gone ahead and done that, we can now save this chart. And so Greg now has a threshold that's been added here to this chart where he can see our data points based on the threshold we set up here. Any points that are in red, of course, are below our goal threshold. Anything above is on point. So just another way here to, again, you can take series from other charts, then come in here and add thresholds, maybe set up a control chart. Anything along those lines. This is just giving much more power behind, just working with charts in KaiNexus. So hope this example that we took you through here was beneficial. Ben, I think we do have a couple of other charts enhancements I want to talk about. So before we move into those other charts, again, just kind of a recap on the shared series here. This is going to allow you to streamline data collection and processing by referencing the same data series in multiple charts. And so ultimately increasing visibility and simplifying collaboration while maintaining that data integrity, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did jokes, but you can do IV start times in a hospital, or the amount of widgets manufactured, or
right.
whatever app applies to your
exactly.
business the most.
And one thing that we just want to make everyone aware that this is currently only available for line bar charts with a date row type. So if you're using a category, that's a feature enhancement that we're taking a look at and hopefully want to have implemented early next year. But as of right now, you're just going to want to go ahead and use that shared series specific to those line charts that you're using a date for your row type. Now, Banna, there were a couple of other features that came out with the 2.3.1 release specific to charts. The first one is being able to hide a data series on a legend of a chart. And so, yeah, go ahead and edit the chart here. So we're going to head over to the advanced options. And so you'll notice now within the advanced options, if you scroll all the way down, we have these checkboxes for visible series. And so, for example, if you want to have a series hidden by default on your chart, you can come in here and deselect that series. So let's say, for example, you want to take my jokes.
Yeah, we don't want to see your jokes.
Okay, I see how it is. So we'll go ahead and save and then come back to our chart. And you'll notice now that my line has disappeared. We're only seeing Banna's jokes here. But of course, there is another feature enhancement as a part of this that you can show or hide the series. So there's a paradigm toggle here where you can actually show that series, see Rippy's jokes, select that, and then of course now it's going to populate on your chart. So a couple of more chart enhancements there. Banna, we're doing well on time. The last thing I want to talk about is going to be in our report section. Let's go ahead and talk about the user cycle time reports. So for those of you with access to the report section, when you jump over here into reports, we now have two options in the activity tab for user improvement cycle time and user project cycle time. And so these new reports are going to show the amount of time it takes improvements in projects to move through each status in KaiNexus. So let's pop open an improvement cycle time here. I'll expand this so everybody can see this a little bit better. So this report functions similar to the location cycle time report.
Almost identical, actually.
Yes, but this is now going to allow you to measure by individual user instead of location. And so you'll be able to drill down here to see, for example, how long it actually takes for your users to finish an improvement or a project in KaiNexus. So ever since we went ahead and introduced this in our release, we've noticed that Banna has been kind of lagging in getting his improvements and projects completed. And so now I can actually come in here and take a look at that and stay on top of him. Make sure he speeds things up a little bit.
I don't blame people here.
So again, just taking a look at the options here in the improvement cycle time report. Top right, you can drill down on the specific time period. Use your customized date periods here. You can pop out and drill down on specific locations within your network. You can use the advanced filter here to go ahead and add some additional criteria on this report. And then, of course, last but not least, if you want to go ahead and export this data out of KaiNexus, there is the opportunity to save and export to Excel down here as well. So again, two new reports. We have this here for our user improvement cycle time, and we also now offer it for the user project cycle time as well. All right, Banna.
Awesome.
Let's see if we have any questions that came through. It looks like we are good. So with a minute to spare, why don't you take us out, my man?
Yeah, let me zoom through this. Now, Rippy and I want to sincerely thank all of you for attending the Banna Rippy show in 2018. I promise I'm not going to start crying again. We hope the material is valuable. We'd love to hear your feedback. Be on the lookout for new episodes in 2019. That being said, we highly encourage you to get your coworkers, your fellow KaiNexus users to sign up and attend, join us in this super fun adventure that we host together. In the meantime, you can head over to kainexus.com/webinar/office hours to see all of our webinars from the past year and brush up on your KaiNexus knowledge going into 2019. If you have any questions or need assistance with configuration of the features that we saw here today, please reach out to your KaiNexus customer experience representative. Also, we recommend you check out our 2.3.1 release support page at support.kainexus.com, the Google of KaiNexus.
Yes, sir.
I'm Matt Bannon, he's Ryan Rippey.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you Kai next year.